Hi everyone, welcome back to the Stitches and Scribbles channel. My name is Erin and I've got a reading podcast for you today. So today we're going to be going over all of the books that I read in April as well as a couple of book acquisitions. Let's start with all those books that I read. A lot of these are going to be books that I don't physically have with me, so I'm going to be showing you them on my phone. I use the app Storygraph to track all of my reading. I just like a lot of the metrics of it better than Goodreads. And Goodreads is also owned by Amazon, which I've heard can kind of inflate some of the ratings for certain books. So I like Storygraph because it's not owned by a book selling company. Let's start with our first book that I read for the month, and this one is a physical book that I have with me. This was House of Roots and Ruin by Erin A. Craig. This is the sequel to House of Salt and Sorrows by the same author. House of Salt and Sorrows is a very spooky, atmospheric retelling of the 12 Dancing Princesses. This is the sequel in that series, and it follows one of the other sisters from the original story. It looks like there are plans to have a third one, but it is not out yet. I'm kind of looking at it on Storygraph because that's where I saw that there was... Oh no, it's not released there. I think I checked the author's website. But there should be another one coming out in this series. I think it was in 2027. But I love this series so far. I got the first book quite a long time ago and reread it because my husband got me this book for my birthday this year. I love this series. It's very creepy and very dark, especially if you're thinking that it's just a fairy tale retelling. It goes darker than that. I would say especially this one leans more into some of the themes in books like Frankenstein, and that it's kind of a science fiction-y twist on the original story. There also are fantasy elements in these stories, but really, really good. They are listed as young adult. I would say that they're more new adult fiction. They're a little bit scaled up from a YA book. I would put it like slightly above the level of Hunger Games in terms of some of the content that's covered, but really, really well written. Fantastic story, especially for older YA readers or, like I said, new adult, which is that, like, I believe 18 to 30 target range. The characters, I believe, are late teens, early 20s, especially in the first book where more of the sisters are present in the story. The second book that I read this month was The Wonderful Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum. I decided that I wanted to read/reread these books. I know that I have read the first few at some point in the past, but I was able to get a Wizard of Oz collection on Audible, so it has the first 14 books all in one Audible file. It counts as one book, so if you have Audible credits, it only counted as one, which was great. And the first 14 are all by L. Frank Baum. After that, they are by different authors, and I know that because my family actually collects the original editions of the Wizard of Oz books, and I think we have probably close to 40 of them at this point. I know that there are some missing ones here and there, but we have the original 14 for sure, and then my mom especially is working on collecting the other ones. I really enjoyed listening to this. It was great as like kind of a background book while I was shelving, and if you've never read them before, there are quite a few pieces of the book that are not featured in the movie. There are several other places that Dorothy and her friends go to that are not specifically mentioned. There are other characters, things like that, so highly recommend it, especially if you have someone in your life who's a middle grade aged reader. The next book is one that I bought from Barnes & Noble, and it's called The Knotted Island by Catherine Child. And I bought this book specifically because one of the premises of the book is that our main character, whose name is Umbertisco Lup, lives in a place without color, and she's one of the last places that has not been granted color. And one of the neat things about this book is that it starts off with black and white illustrations, but as you get farther into the story, and more things happen, color slowly starts to come to the illustrations, which I thought was really, really cool. This kind of reminded me of books like Coraline or the Narnia series. It's very kind of quirky, atmospheric. It's not as dark as Coraline is. I guess that's not a fantastic comparison. Definitely a little bit like Narnia, a little bit like Alice in Wonderland. Very, very sweet book. Highly recommend this for any middle grade readers. It was very cute. The next book I read, I actually do have the physical copy, but it is at work right now because this is my free reading book when I do free reading with kids. I read Dragon Song by Anne McCaffrey, and this is part of the Dragon Riders of Pern series, and I did kind of a little Googling on this series to figure out what book 1 was. So there are 3 books in this overarching Dragon Riders of Pern series that are part of the Harper Hall of Pern trilogy. That is Dragon Song, Dragon Singer, and Dragon Drums. Those 3 books in the series are YA, so young adult, and the rest of the series is labeled as adult. So it's kind of like a trilogy within a series, but you can read it as a trilogy by itself without having read the rest of it. So that's what I chose to do. And I picked these up because my mom read them when she was younger and really enjoyed them, and I wanted to read them too. They came out, the first one came out in 1976, so it was right around when my mom would have been maybe she would have been in like late elementary school when they came out, so probably read them in middle school, high school age. But it's a really unique story. It's got dragons in it. What more could you want? Anne McCaffrey is a classic in the science fiction and fantasy world, and I really enjoyed reading it. It's a fairly short read. All 3 of these books are very short. I would say that even though it's labeled as YA, I think a middle grade reader could handle it if they're a more advanced reader. There's no content in it that's particularly YA targeted. Again, if we're using like the Hunger Games as a YA marker, it's way less severe than the Hunger Games. It does deal with the main character becoming injured and losing part of the use of one of her hands, and kind of feelings of abandonment by the main character. But otherwise, I think a fairly advanced middle grade reader could read this. I would say like 5th grade and up for sure. But it's really good. It's one that I'm considering adding to our school library, and I'm currently working through the rest of the series. So in April, I had only gotten to this one, but I'm filming this in May, and I'm about halfway through the second one at this point. The next book I read is another one that I read at school, although I thought I brought it home. I'm looking around the room like that's going to help me figure out where this book is, but it's probably in one of the many bags of things that I've brought home. This was the Read Aloud Family by Sarah Mackenzie, who is the host of the Read Aloud Revival podcast. I got this book because it was featured in our school book fair, and it's a really excellent resource for anybody who has children or works with children and wants to enhance your reading experience, especially if you happen to be Catholic like I am. She has a lot of really great kind of tips for making read aloud a really meaningful experience for your family. In this case, I was using it thinking about my students. And she also just has some really great book lists in there of books by age that she found made really good read alouds with her kids. So I really appreciate this book as a resource. Highly, highly recommend. The next book I read for the month was the second Oz book, which is The Marvelous Land of Oz. This was in that same Audible audiobook collection that I got, and I forgot that this book existed in the series because I was remembering the movies more specifically. So we know there's the original Wizard of Oz movie, and then at some point, I believe in the like late 70s, early 80s, there was another movie that came out called Return to Oz. So I thought that this book was going to be following the story of Return to Oz. That is not correct. This is kind of a story in between those two stories. So Dorothy is not in this book. but it kind of sets up some events that will happen later on in the series. So you are introduced to a lot of new characters. You get a lot more of kind of the geography of the Land of Oz, which was really interesting. I think even though I did really enjoy listening to this as an audiobook, I do think this is a book where if you have a physical book, especially one that has like maps or illustrations in it, it might be helpful because there is a lot of discussion of like which country in Oz they're talking about. But very good book. Highly enjoyed it. And that's actually it for books that I read this month. So not a ton, although I did pick up my reading speed at the beginning of May. So there should be more books to show you in the next reading podcast. But I did have a couple of acquisitions that I was really excited about that I wanted to show you. The first one is one that I think I just found in a little library, I'm pretty sure. It's called A Most Agreeable Murder, and I did definitely pick this one because of the cover. But it looked to me like a combination of Pride and Prejudice and a murder mystery, which looking at the back is exactly what it is. So I'm really excited to read this one because it's been a while since I've picked up a good like cozy mystery, and it looks like that's what this is going to be. So I'm excited to read it. The second one I got from Half Price Books, and this is Sir Gawain and the Green Knight by J.R.R. Tolkien. I just wanted to add it to my Tolkien collection. I have not actually read this one. I have been told that it's a little challenging to read, but I'm willing to try it, especially because even though it was marked as $8.48, I think I actually found this in the clearance section, so it was less expensive than that. But I'm excited to try it out. Another good classic. The last one I found also at Half Price Books, this was in kind of just the regular fiction section, even though it's actually middle grade fiction. And it's called The Ogress and the Orphans, and it's by Kelly Barnhill. And this looked like a book I would have loved when I was a kid. It was not around when I was a kid. I'm looking at the copyright date, and it's 2022. But this happened to be a signed copy as well, so I'm excited about this book. I think it's going to be really good. I'm going to kind of save it for over the summer, but I think it's one that I will look for another copy of for my school library because I want to save the signed copy for myself. That's it for this month, so just a kind of short and sweet reading podcast today. Thank you so much for watching and listening. If you liked what you saw today, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below so you can be notified of all my videos right here on YouTube. I talk about crafts, I do tutorials, and of course I talk about books, and it's generally a good time. And if you want to follow me on other social media sites, that information is in the description box below. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.